Lease negotiation, structure and flow. The role of the lease proposal, LOI, commercial lease. Negotiations begin with a lease proposal, also known as a letter of intent, LOI, submitted by the tenant's real estate agent to the landlord or the landlord's agent. Although the LOI is not legally binding, it must summarize all major business terms that will later appear in the formal lease agreement. Typically, it is a concise 2 to 3 page document. It is rare for a landlord to accept the first LOI without changes. If they do, it may indicate that the terms are overly favorable to the landlord and caution is required. Of course, if the location is exceptional, accepting the landlord's terms quickly can be a strategic move. The landlord will respond with a counter-proposal, and both sides continue exchanging revisions until they reach agreement or negotiations collapse. Key items negotiated in the LOI. Tenant name. The lease may be signed under an individual or a corporate entity. Each option has tax advantages and disadvantages. If the company is newly formed, landlords often require a personal guarantee from the owner. 2. Property address. Confirm accuracy. 3. Permitted use. Specifying a narrow usage as exclusive rights to operate a Japanese cuisine and sushi restaurant serving beer and wine can increase the lease value by preventing similar restaurants from entering the same center. However, landlords typically avoid granting exclusive rights as they can cause disputes among tenants. 4. Premises size. Measured in square feet in the US 5. Lease term. Most restaurant leases are 5 or 10 years. For large build-outs, a minimum of 10 years is preferred to allow for depreciation. 6. Renewal options. Tenants may negotiate the right to renew the lease under the same terms except for rent. Landlords rarely remind tenants of renewal deadlines, so tenants must track these dates themselves. Free rent, rent abatement. While tenants may begin paying rent immediately after signing, it is common to negotiate 2 to 3 months of free rent. For large restaurants or shell spaces, 6 months or more may be granted. Another effective strategy is to start rent only after construction is completed. Base rent and lease types. Most restaurant and retail leases use a triple net lease, where the tenant pays property taxes, fire insurance, common area maintenance CAM, utilities. Other lease types include gross lease offices. Rent includes all expenses and utilities. Modified gross lease apartments. Landlord pays expenses. Tenant pays rent plus utilities. Rent is typically paid in advance on the first of each month, and late payments incur penalties. Annual rent increases. Rent increases usually follow the Consumer Price Index (CPI) during inflationary periods. CPI has risen 7 to 8%, so tenants often negotiate a cap and floor range, for example, 3% to 5%, a fixed annual increase around 3%. Triple net charges, NNN charges. NNN charges fluctuate annually because expenses change. Treat the quoted amount as a reference, not a fixed number. Deposits, rental deposit. First month's rent, paid at lease signing. Security deposit, typically 1 to 2 months' rent, refundable if no damage occurs. Parking considerations. Los Angeles is a car-dependent city. Properties without customer parking should generally be avoided unless located in dense walkable districts. Tenants also need parking for themselves, but landlords often avoid assigning spaces to tenants to prevent tenant vehicles from occupying customer parking. Condition of the premises. Most spaces are delivered as is. If the previous tenant was a restaurant, tenants may request the landlord to guarantee that electrical, HVAC, and plumbing systems are in working condition. If the landlord refuses, tenants should have a contractor inspect the space before signing to estimate repair costs. Contingency clauses. Contingencies allow tenants to cancel the deal if certain conditions are not met. Common examples: failure to obtain required permits, failure to obtain a liquor license. Landlords dislike liquor license contingencies because they risk losing months of rent during the free rent period. A practical solution is for tenants to offer several months of prepaid rent as a form of insurance to secure the contingency. Broker representation. The LOI lists both the tenants and landlord's brokers. It also states that the LOI is non-binding. The deadline for the landlord's response. Once both sides agree on the LOI, the process moves to the attorney stage. The attorney's role. The landlord's attorney drafts the formal lease based on the agreed LOI. This may take 3 days to 2 months. Tenants should hire an attorney experienced in commercial leases to review the document and identify unfavorable clauses. Typical fees. Lease review, around $600. Hourly rate, $200, $350. Negotiating lease revisions should ideally be handled by the real estate agent, not the attorney, to avoid excessive legal fees. After revisions are finalized, the tenant signs the lease and sends 2 signed copies. A cashier's check for first month's rent plus security deposit. The landlord returns 1 fully executed copy. About personal guarantees. New corporations or individuals with limited credit may be asked to provide a personal guarantor. However, this can create significant risk for the guarantor. The ideal approach is to negotiate terms using security deposits and prepaid rent, avoiding the need for a guarantor whenever possible. For more info and videos, please like, share, and subscribe.